What if you could be doing something smarter with your money that creates income now? If you're wanting to get ahead financially and enjoy greater freedom of choice, if you want a comfortable retirement and you know you'll have more choices if you can do more with your money now, if you've wondered who else is creating ways to make their money work for them, and you want actionable ideas with honest pros and cons and no fluff, welcome to the Richer Geek Podcast. We're here helping people find creative ways to build wealth and financial freedom. I'm Mike Stohler, and in this podcast you'll hear from others who are already doing these things and learn how you can too. Welcome back, everybody. Joining us today is Chris Arnold. He has closed over 2,500 real estate deals using a marketing channel that's very effective but frequently overlooked: radio. In his 15 years of working in real estate, Chris has perfected a method of micro-targeting the exact audience he's looking for and then creating explosive radio spots that result in prospects approaching him to buy their homes. This marketing channel brings in consistent and highly motivated sellers with virtually no competition. We want to welcome Chris Arnold, who is the co-founder of COSA Investments. And the reason why I picked Chris today is he has a very unique way of marketing real estate. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well, man. Glad to hang out, add some value today.
Yeah, and you're coming from sunny Mexico, or is it not so sunny Mexico? It's probably a lot warmer than we are right now, huh?
No, this is the best time of year to be down in Mexico. So for next 3 or 4 months, it's going to be like 70 degrees. And we're out of the rainy season, so it's truly like sunny and 70 every day.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. And usually where I'm at in Scottsdale, Arizona, it's usually 3 degrees from the sun. 115 or so.
You get super hot there, man.
We get super hot, and then now I'm in a jacket, and it's 65 degrees, and I'm like freezing. So that's the kind of the bad part. But so Chris, before we get into exactly what you do, you're very active in real estate itself, and you have a pretty big milestone. I mean, you've actually closed over 2,500 deals, but it's the way that you've closed them that is unique. You're using a very unique marketing channel, and that channel is radio. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. And people step back when we say radio. I tell you, the very first thing that comes to people's mind: radio? Really? Isn't that old, like antiquated? And I go, yep. And guess what? So is your target audience. So here's the biggest mistake I see people make. People confuse themselves as the demographic or as their avatar. So guys like you and I might go, hey, we download our music. I got a, Spotify subscription, or I utilize Pandora. But if you look statistically around the country at investment properties, particularly single family, doesn't matter if you fix and flip, owner finance, want to build a rental portfolio, it's all the same. The primary demographic that we are serving is over the age of 50. And I'm sorry, our grandparents do not have Spotify subscriptions. They still get in the car, and when they turn that engine on, they turn it to the 2 to 3 radio stations that they love the music on. And all of a sudden, when you realize that that is our number one demographic, and you connect the fact that radio is the best way to get in front of them, it's an aha moment for everyone going, how in the world did we look past this one?
And that's fascinating. So, okay, target market over 50. Now, when we're talking about the deals, what's buyer side, seller side, investor side, the renter side? What demographic?
We're talking about generating motivated seller leads. We're talking about a conversation or an ad that speaks directly to a seller over the age of 50.
Yeah.
That is in a distressed situation that would cause them to want to deeply discount the sell of a residential property. Now, what you decide to do with that property doesn't matter. You can owner finance it, rent it out, fix and flip, wholesale, hotel. We can name every exit strategy there is.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing we all have in common listening to this podcast is we need deal flow and we need opportunity. And that's what radio does. Creates motivated seller leads.
And this is fascinating. It's like, I have these questions, but all of a sudden I pause and I'm like going, wow, this is pretty cool. So the function of, take us through grandma, grandpa, or parents. I'm almost getting up there, so it might be me in a few years.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the radio and all of a sudden this ad pops up. The ad is going to say what, for instance? Give me an example of what we can expect to listen to or hear.
We're running 60-second spots on radio. Again, you have options to run 30s, 15, etc. We run 60-second spots so that our message is clearly communicated. Again, we're serving people over the age of 50. They don't want fast. They don't want speed. They don't want fast talking. They want clear and simple, slow explanation. So what you're hearing in the ad is us simply running an ad that hits on pain points, right? Are you behind on payments? Do you own a house that needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Are you a landlord that's tired of being a tenant? So we're hitting every motivating factor or pain point that we know that these sellers might be experiencing, and then providing a solution call to action at the end saying, hey, if any of these pain points are your pain, give us a shout. And again, it's always the same, right? Cash, as is, convenient, close, blah, 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 like we always do, to allow people to sell their properties to us for cash. And they prefer to go that route than a traditional agent requires the hassle of going that route.
Okay. And do you handle both sides? I'm looking also because I'm an investor, because I'm my wheels are starting to spin a little bit. Thinking about all these different things that we could do, with the radio and all these sort of things. So you can teach people how to do the radio leads, these ads, but then do you also, through your business, you generate all of these leads that someone like a wholesaler in the United States could then pick up from you? So I'm looking at a lot of our different listeners they're people that want to buy houses. Okay. They want to know, how can I do what you do? But then do you also get all of these people that you're already buying these houses from and then generate a business? Can you do it that way also, where you're also can wholesale your own leads?
Yeah. So let me explain it this way. This is what's referred to as authoritative marketing, right? You have authoritative marketing exists through channels like radio and television. This is a channel that when you are heard on, it is assumed that you are an expert at whatever it is you're talking about. So if you're an attorney and you advertise on the radio and someone hears you, the assumption we make is, man, that's probably a pretty good attorney, because only great attorneys can afford to advertise on the radio, right? So what I have found is it makes you magnetic for all kinds of opportunities. So even if, for instance, in our ad, all we're doing is, trying to generate motivated seller leads, we attract all kinds of people. We attract people that hear us and go, hey, I want to actually invest my money as a private lender. Man, you sound like a sophisticated investor. Are you looking to pick up some funds? I'm a vendor and I do construction work, and you do rehabbing of houses. Man, I'd love to get on your side. How can we strike up a deal? And then you end up getting vendors at a less price. You generate retail leads, people that want to list. I could go on and on. But the point is, it's making you magnetic in your environment. And here's what I'm going to tell you. It does two things. It creates celebrity status and instant credibility. We get celebrities from psychologically what happens in our mind when we hear people on the radio and see them on TV. This is why celebrities exist. Psychologically, we elevate that person in our mind to a position of status that is superior to us. And on top of that, we give instant credibility that we automatically trust this person. So when you're advertising on the radio, it doesn't matter who's listening, what their motivation is to want to do deals with you, whatever that looks like, you automatically are put in a position where they want to get closer to you for whatever gain they feel like they can get from you. And that is the power of radio. You don't get that on a lot of other marketing channels.
No, not at all. And it's fascinating. And for those that say, well, how do I do this? Do I contact, FM station this or AM station this? You have the REI radio coaching program that handles all of our listeners' questions, correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
I've been doing this for 10 years, right? So my mindset is anytime I go to learn something new, no way I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to pay for speed. So I don't care if I'm getting in shape. I don't care if I want to learn to do whatever it is. I live in Tulum right now. So free diving's example. Do I go out there and start free diving down myself and watching YouTube videos? No, I'm going to go find, which I did, the best free diving instructor that lives in Tulum. And I'm going to start working with him. So absolutely, we have a completely turnkey model. And what I mean by turnkey is it's plug and play. Just take what we do in our system that I've been doing for 10 years, worked out all the kinks, done all the split testing, have an answer to every variable that exists when advertising on radio, and you just plug it right into your business. And again, as I mentioned, it doesn't matter what your end strategy is. So this isn't for just someone that is a fix and flip or just a wholesale. Whatever your end strategy is, we all have the same need, and that is to generate a motivated seller lead. And so that's what we're going to be able to help people do via our program.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's, not only do I do some wholesaling, but I do, long-term lease to holds, but the whole thing is what all of us, and, what I've been telling all of our listeners, it's how you buy. You want to buy the asset to the point where if the economy crashes during a pandemic or during a depression, you don't have to sell because there's no reason to. So the whole thing is getting those types of leads to where you're getting the asset no matter what you want to do.
This is the highest motivated seller lead that you can generate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. If we compare it to direct mail or any spam approach, which most people do, which is I do like I would consider spam approaches as ringless voicemail, text blasting, cold calling, direct mailing, right? We're spamming people. I'm sorry, but you're not generating a motivated seller lead. Over half of those people are calling you to screw off, right? Like, don't put mail in my mailbox anymore, right? They're hate calls. With radio, no one's doing it. There's virtually no competition. If you're listening, I want you to turn on the radio as you're driving down the road, right? And I want you to see if you can even hear somebody in your market advertising for, distressed seller leads. I can help you. You won't even hear it. So here's the deal. If I'm the only one that's dealing with this seller, I'm going to get a better price than if I do direct mail and I'm going up against 6 other investors and we're all competing on who can give this seller the highest price and shrink my margins. So without question, it's the highest motivated seller I know how to generate. And number 2, primarily, we're the only ones that seller is talking to. And again, the reason they're not calling 5 other people is because you're a local celebrity and you have instant credibility, and they don't think they need to call anybody else. You're the guy or you're the girl that's on the radio. Like, let's do business. Like, that's how people think, particularly people that are over the age of 50 that live in a world of just trust, right? Back to a good old fashioned handshake. Can I trust you? And radio in their mind creates an instant trust between you and them.
Yeah. And how many of our listeners are, they're hiring companies to do these robo dials and trying to generate leads? Well, I tell you what, if that number is not in my phone list, a name attached to it, you're not going to get me anyway. And that's the way it is with everyone. So all of these dialing for bucks, how much is that really working in today's society? But if you are listening to the radio, what are you going to do? Reach down and turn down every single advertise. I mean, people aren't going to do that.
People
It's a
don't do that.
captive audience. They're in their car and they're listening to you.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. If you're listening, right, and let's say you're someone that, is utilizing real estate as a side hustle, and so you don't have a lot of time. I think the best aspect of radio is that it's set it and forget it. So if we compare it to a lot of other marketing channels that require a lot of time and tweaking and split testing and are just an overall pain in the ass to run, with radio, the radio station does everything for you. All you got to do is pay your monthly bill and answer the phone when the lead comes in, or send it to whoever you have to answer these calls for you to convert them. But it is without question the easiest marketing channel to run long term. Because if you're like me, Mike, the last thing I want to do is launch a new marketing channel that feels like I just created an entirely another job for myself.
Yeah, and a lot of our listeners are that way. They're busy people. This is usually a side hustle. They're working 9 to 5. They're making good money, and that the two words, plug and play, easy, things that they can forget about. That's what they need, because they're stressed already at their jobs.
Yeah,
And
agreed. And here's the other thing I'll tell you on top of that. We already talked about assumption number one, why I don't use radios, because I think it's outdated and I don't understand my avatar. Here's the second reason. Mike, if you ask people, well, what's the average monthly budget to get started on radio? Most people will tell you, probably 10K. We are like market to market across the US helping students do this. The average budget for our students on radio is between $500 to $2,000 a month. That's less than direct mail. The reason is we are teaching people literally how to buy radio at 25 cents on the dollar. Again, we live in a world where most people pay retail, right, for radio, just like most people in America pay retail for their homes. But we're having a conversation, and you and I live in a world where you buy houses at 60 cents on the dollar. Now, the rest of the US doesn't understand that. They're like, you can't do that, because they're so used to paying retail. It's the same application over to radio. We're literally coming in and everyone else pays retail for radio, and the way they go about it is completely backwards. And we're over here buying radio at 25 cents on the dollar, maintaining budgets under $2,000 a month for a radio station. And on top of that, having the absolute best rate possible for a marketing channel like this. It's fantastic.
And it's something else that you're doing is you're utilizing to, again, keep a lot of the work off of yourself, is you're utilizing VAs.
Correct. I'm not in the day-to-day. So
Yeah.
I've set up my operations to live in Tulum, and I am not involved in the day-to-day. And so my whole thing is I want to set up things that bother me as little as possible. So if you have that mindset of a lifestyle business, then you can't go in and decide that you want to do cold calling. I'm sorry, but that's going and contrasting against the value of freedom, because that thing is going to, do the opposite. It's going to steal time and energy away from you. So I believe that things like radio are essential if you have this mindset of, I want to build this business that runs without me as much as possible.
Yeah. Because, remember, everybody, the reason why you're listening to this podcast, the reason why you're wanting to learn this is you want to build and diversify your wealth, so that when you retire, you're not stuck with 100% of everything in your IRA, your 401k, whatever stocks. If someone sneezes, the stocks go down. Every 4 years, we may have, the political shifts, goes up, down. One thing that is consistent, that will always, and I'm not going to say always, but usually appreciates, is real estate. And in order to do that, you can't just quit your job and go into it. That just does not work with most people. You have to get with mentors, experts. Don't go at these things alone, as far as, oh, okay, I'll do radio advertising and you're going to lose your shirt. Get with experts like Chris. They've done it. Learn from his mistakes, learn from his expertise, and do the plug and play. Don't try to do it on your own, or else you're going to, just like me, when I tried to invest on my own, crash and burn. Learn from our mistakes. It's very fascinating, Chris. It's now you do some wholesaling. We'll kind of wrap this up, but a lot of our listeners probably don't know what JVs are. You do some joint ventures in the wholesaling. Are you still doing any of that? Are you still doing different type of wholesaling with JVs?
Yeah, we do. We do fix and flip, wholesale, hotel, you name it. So,
Yeah.
we utilize multiple marketing strategies. My mindset is you take a deal that you contract and then you sit down and you figure out what exit strategy is going to yield you the highest profit.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it should go into a rental portfolio, right? Sometimes you should wholesale it. Sometimes, hey, let's go in and actually put some work and rehab into this one because we're going to get a great ROI if we flip this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So my mindset is never getting, stuck in one mode of exit strategy. So I always challenge people, don't identify yourself as a fix and flipper or a wholesaler or anything. You're a marketing person. And as a marketing person, you are utilizing multiple tools and exit strategies to capitalize and get a higher ROI on your marketing. That's the way you should view yourself.
Yeah. And, everyone, you should also think about, well, I don't have the money right now, or I don't have the time to do what we're talking about today. Something like a JV is a joint venture. Well, you know what? There's a couple of your guys in your office that can do it. And you might want to get together as a twosome or threesome, do some type of a joint venture. And now you can sit there and say, okay, now I can learn how to do it on the radio, advertise, and market yourself properly. But now you're only a third into it instead of full into it. So there are always different ways of doing things. The number one thing you cannot do is make the excuse that you don't have the time or you don't have the funds, because you'll never get started. You'll never be in Mexico free diving on your spare time, or like me, golfing, and not worrying about where the next deal is going to come in, because we're making it work.
Absolutely. Cool.
So, one thing I always ask everyone is any other type of resources, any type of books that you've read lately that our investors might be able to, what motivated you to do this? Was there a mentor or a book that you read?
I wouldn't say that there was a book I read that motivated me to do this, but people ask me a book, that has really impacted my life and my view of business. I always recommend a book called Organizational Physics. I feel like that was a book that helped give me a lens to understand how businesses, not just real estate, operate as a whole. It was a paradigm. It was like when you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You just had this massive paradigm shift on the difference between, passive income and, liabilities and all of that type of stuff. And so, I know so many people that shifted their thinking and why they do real estate investing. So organizational physics kind of did that same thing for me around business.
Perfect. And where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. So if you're interested in radio, one of the things we've done to preserve this and not allow it to get oversaturated is we limit people per market. So we do exclusivity. And so we have a very tight knit group that are doing this in different markets. So we definitely at this point have certain markets that have been sold out. But what you want to do is start with due diligence. I always recommend asking questions and book a call. And you can do that by going to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Again, that's wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. And of course, for just free info, want to see more videos and stuff on it, you can go to YouTube and subscribe at Chris Arnold Real Estate. And you can get free content over there specifically on radio.
Well, there you go, everybody. Who knew that radio still exists and radio can make you wealthier? It can ease your existence as far as your market share and how you get hold and how you can captivate an audience in a way that most of us don't even know existed still. And it's very fascinating. And I've always said, if everyone's doing it, get out of it. Well, you know what? Not everyone's doing radio advertising and marketing. So this is the time that if you want to do it and you're serious about it, get a hold of Chris Arnold so that you can learn how to do what he does very well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to the Richer Geek Podcast, where we're helping others find creative ways to build wealth and financial freedom. For today's show notes, including all the links and resources from our show and more information about our guests, visit us at www.therichergeek.com/podcast. And don't forget to jump over to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts and hit the subscribe button. Share with others who could benefit from listening. And leave a rating and review to get the podcast in front of more eyes. I appreciate you, and thanks for listening.